What's going on, y'all? Back with another JT's Mixtape, episode number 42. And if you guys are enjoying these podcasts, please give me a 5-star review on either Apple or Spotify. And if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. Thank you.
Come closer, my child.
What's going on, y'all? This podcast is brought to you by Modern Roots Life. Modern Roots Life is a Christian-owned and operated company, and it's bringing real health back to its roots. They offer powerful, all-natural health supplements such as beef liver, cod liver oil, beef tallow, magnesium, and mineral-rich salts, all sourced the way God intended. Clean, simple, and from the earth. So whether you're looking to boost your energy, restore mineral balance, or just fuel your family with real nourishment, Modern Roots Life has got you covered. Guys, in this community, we're trying to get healthy in our mind, in our body, and our spirit. So don't neglect your health. If you want more information, check out modernrootslife.com and check the link in my description. You know, people often ask me how they can support me. Well, I think it's pretty cool if you can support me by supporting the people who support me, and you get something in return. And being healthy is a pretty good return. Now, today is a very special show because not only do I have my co-host Brian with me, but I also have the music behind JT's Mixtape, Tune Thy Heart. What's going on, brother?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
And Brian, how you doing, brother?
Doing great. And do you let people know your secret name, Tune Thy Heart, or do I call you Tune?
You can call me Aaron. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Has the Key and Peele skit forever ruined your name? Now are you called AA Ron?
AA Ron, where are you? Where is AA Ron right now?
Yeah, someone, I used to, for a short time, I worked in finance, and somebody showed me that, like a client showed me that. I had never seen it before, and it was freaking hilarious. It was one of the funniest things I'd ever seen. So yeah, I'm no stranger to hearing that.
You done messed up, AA Ron.
You done messed up, AA Ron!
But yeah, man, I'm excited to have you on the show. I know that
Thank you.
It's been too long, way too long since we've talked last. I mean, the last time we talked it wasn't even on YouTube, I think, because we were talking about weather manipulation and all that kind of stuff, and it was too spicy for YouTube, so we had to put it on Rumble.
It was. That's right. Yep.
You know, we made a couple of viral reels out of that, talking about who was the rapper that you mentioned?
B.O.B. Yeah, we were talking about harp.
Yeah, the harp music.
Song, harp music. Yep. You know who the artist B.O.B. is?
I've heard the name. I'm not sure who that is.
He's the guy that rapped on the "Can we pretend that airplanes in the night skies are like shooting stars?"
Oh, yeah.
He put out an album in 2016 called Elements. There's one song on that album called Harp.
He's called it Harp?
It's literally called harp music.
Oh, wow.
2016. So here's the lyrics. They sing harp music, no escape, no escape, no escape, harp music. Let it rain, let it rain, let it rain, harp music. Yeah, can stuff change? Is that rain? Is that rain? How strange, how strange. How they spray them clouds with them planes. Deep pain inside of these veins. Deep pain inside of these veins. How strange, how strange. How they got these fibers, these strands. Gotta work for a living, not a while, gotta work for a living, no I. And I suppose from the highs and lows, lies are told when in July it snows. Pinocchio can't hide his nose any more I'm not gonna finish that. But who am I? I don't know nothing. I don't know no ting. How about I take my rapper thoughts and go smoke some rapper weed? They got a coffin if you sleep, R.I.P. Then the elite trigger tsunamis using technology.
Oh my gosh.
Right, like he's literally telling us.
Where's this guy from? Like, how would he know the things that he's saying? Is he a part-time conspiracy TikToker? I mean, like how would he know any of that stuff? I mean, like, because that's deep stuff that he's saying.
2016.
Like, that was absolutely insane. Of course, that's what everyone else thought, because that reel did really well.
Did you ever listen to the whole album?
I listened to parts of it. I don't know if I ever like listened to it front to back, but I did obviously scan it, and there's a lot there. There's a lot there.
From start to finish, he talks about the levees being blown during Katrina. He talks about flat Earth. He talks about deep underground military bases.
I need to listen to that.
From start to finish, he's just dropping bombs. And that was 2016. So it's I don't I got to put a qualifier on that. I don't recommend anybody who's actively pursuing a relationship with Jesus to add that to their repertoire, because it's not very wholesome. But if you're able to listen to it from a informational, breaking it down, or even just reading the lyrics, maybe might be a better idea. Mm-hmm. It's insane. It's insane how much he talks about. So
I got to ask you this. I haven't asked you this. Did you ever finish watching that movie End of Days?
You know what? I regret to inform you that I didn't, even though I'm the one that showed it to you. I was like, hey, let's watch this and talk about it. I haven't seen it, so you're going to have to fill me in.
Okay, maybe we'll talk about that later on the show, because I watched The End of Days, and I'll tell you why later. Oh, well, spoilers. It's a short season discussion, but I'll show a clip of that, and I'll post it toward the end of the podcast, because it might have to be cut for YouTube because of copyright stuff. But
so
yeah, there's some
there's like a movie about the little season.
It's religious, say kind of. We'll get to that. We'll tease that one for later.
Ultimate movie about it, because we did that with the Nephilim already with Ancient Angels. We're gonna have to make the ultimate.
Yeah, we need to make the little season documentary, and we're gonna get Tune Thy Heart to get us the soundtrack.
That's right. I'll do all the sound and music for it.
Want to do the music?
Done.
Heck yeah, man. All right, let's just get into some videos. I know that a lot of people are aware of the new Marvel movie, Fantastic Four: First Steps. And I talked a little bit on a stream, but I thought it was really interesting, worth replaying this clip about the creator of both Galactus and the Silver Surfer. We often say, and of course in Ancient Angels, that's my big segment, is talking about how all these superheroes are either Nephilim or fallen angels. Well, it's kind of interesting when you hear it from the horse's own mouth. Check this clip out.
For some reason, I went to the Bible. I came up with Galactus. And there I was in front of this tremendous figure who I knew very well, because I've always felt him, and I certainly couldn't treat him in the same way that I would any ordinary mortal. And I remember in my first story, I had to back away from him to resolve that story. And of course, the Silver Surfer is the fallen angel. And when Galactus relegated him to Earth, he stayed on Earth. And that was the beginning of his adventures.
Is he saying that straight up that Galactus is God?
Yes.
Because he's like straight up, he said, for some reason, I went to the Bible.
Yeah, he was a little coded saying that, but if you haven't seen it, I often talk about the Good Fight Ministries, and again, we don't see eye to eye about everything anymore. But they did a series about, I think, Marvel and DC's War Against God, something like that. And they had like 3 different versions of it. But they specifically talk about that story and how Gnostic it is you have this looming threat from this God character, the Celestial, and he comes and he's the most powerful being in the universe, right? And then he's coming to destroy the Earth. And his herald, Silver Surfer, ends up betraying him, siding with humanity, saving the day. And then Galactus traps the Silver Surfer on Earth. He spares the planet, but he decides to trap the Silver Surfer in the Earth's atmosphere. And so, yeah, like that I want to say that Stan Lee famously said, here's the idea. We're going to have him fight God. That was like a direct quote from Stan Lee when they were writing that comic book.
The fallen angel fighting God. Sounds a little bit like Lucifer. Why is every character Lucifer? And all of them. They're all different forms of Satan.
No, I mean, like that's the story. We see that story perpetuated over and over and over and over, and they change the characters, they change the names, but like there's really nothing original anymore. They just literally keep telling the same story with different spandex suits and different character names and different superpowers and trying to flip it and twist it and make it look like. What I don't get about that is if Galactus is God, how does that add up with him being the planet devourer?
It's just the same way they don't make it's not exactly one to one, because obviously if
Sure.
it was like our God, he would not be the bad guy, but that they view him as he's really this uncaring and he's only cares about himself. And so
Yeah.
his appetite needs to be fed, and it doesn't matter how many worlds are destroyed because he's God and he can do whatever he wants to do.
Which is the argument from all the New Agers is like the God of the Old Testament is just the most brutal, ruthless, like, how could you serve a God like that kind of argument. So it would make sense if that's the context in which he was trying to portray Galactus, that the world would portray God that way. That makes sense to me.
Right. And so if you guys have seen the Eternals movie, have you seen that one, Aaron?
I have, yeah.
So that one, they have the God character in that who created the Eternals, which are very clearly angels. They're they're the Watchers. And so
What's his name?
His name is Ereshim.
Ereshim, yeah. And so in Hebrew, they call God Hashem.
Yeah, Ereshim. I think it could even be translated into God's lion and also the name. Like Era, I think might have something to do with like God's line. But yeah, so in that movie, he just looks like this kind of he's like celestial, like Galactus, but he looks more like a robot. And he does not have any feelings or care for anything. And so what's really interesting in that movie is that his goal is to send the Eternals to this world, and they're supposed to kind of steward humanity along until it gets to the point where like the Earth is, I don't know, it's got like more energy or power or something like that, based on, I guess, humanity somehow. But it's all about how they're going to birth this other celestial from the Earth, and the Earth is going to be destroyed. And so like that's the purpose. And so the creator, Ereshim, does not tell the Eternals why they're actually going to go to Earth. Because they think, and they, of course, they have some affinity for the Earthlings, and they say, actually, they're great. Ereshim, you can't destroy them. So what do? They betray their creator. And the fascinating part about the end of that movie is when Ereshim shows up. And it's crazy because like the sky literally like rolls back like a scroll, like it cuts in half, and you just see him. And then all the Eternals who are on Earth get sucked up to heaven or space. And then they're put in these kind of like discs, like rings. And he tells them that because they sacrificed the Celestial, they're going to be, he's coming back for judgment one day.
Oh my gosh. Same story, different spandex. Like Tune Thy Heart said.
I really
Exactly.
not about thinking about how you have if the Eternals represent angels either are literally stars or they were represented by stars. You think about the wandering stars, the planets, and you think about like really bad planets, or like the names of a really bad planet is Saturn. So Saturn has these rings. I just thought it was interesting. Their creator stuck them in this ring that they could not move out of. Like it was like that was some kind of a prison for them. Is that what they were showing with the rings? Like there's all these satanic planets with rings around them.
One could argue that represents the ice wall.
Could be.
I think I would say maybe it could be like a representation of a sigil, because a lot of sigils
That
are
too.
rings and stars, and sigils bind demons.
Okay.
And they bind entities. And in fact, they're stars and sigil. They're circles. They're rings. A lot of them.
Yeah, that's true as well. But yeah, one thing you said, Aaron, is exactly. I was going to make a video today, and it just didn't work out. But what I was going to say is that the modern superhero is just the old gods or fallen angels in spandex. No
Exactly.
difference. That's exactly what they are. And so what's really interesting about that new Silver Surfer movie is that like Disney does everything. They ruin things. So they said, hey, everyone really likes the Silver Surfer. Let's make him a chick in this one. And everyone said, oh gosh, like seriously. Like why? Like they just killed off all the best heroes in the Marvel universe, right? In Endgame. Like some of them actually died. Like T'Challa, what was that guy's name? I forget his name. The guy who played Black Panther. He died in real life, and they replaced him with a chick. But so then they have this chance with this series that could be a hit for them. And one of the best characters in the Marvel universe is the Silver Surfer, whether he's represented by a representative of Satan or not. But as a comic book nerd, he was a good character. Like, so I was really questioning. So why did they decide to gender swap this character? Now you could just say Disney's woke, and of course they're going to do it. They're going to do things just to ruin it on purpose. But I thought it was really interesting. So the female Silver Surfer's name is Shala Bal.
Is it that in the show as well?
Well, in the comic book, that's what her name is. Again, like you think about who wrote these, wrote these comic books was this guy Jack Kirby, who obviously was talking about Gnostic, some kind of Gnostic inversion. Galactus is God, Silver Surfer's a fallen angel. So who is his wife? So he names this character, or Stan Lee names her Shala Bal, or Shala Bale almost. And so I looked it up. So Shala was a Mesopotamian goddess of agriculture and the harvest. And she was married to a storm god named Adad or Hadad, whose actually alternate name in a different part of the region was just straight up Baal. So Shala Bal's, so like literally it's like this woman was married to Baal. And then
That's insane. I had no idea.
Yeah, that's can't make this stuff up.
That's the Silver
Marvel
Surfer's
does.
wife. Yeah, but Marvel definitely does.
Marvel does. Marvel and Disney do.
Thing, that's what they call her in the movie, or do they call her the Silver Surfer?
They probably just call her the Silver Surfer, but it's kind of like
They do mention her name though. They literally mention her name. They discover her name and they mention her name. They say it. They said what you just said. And
Really?
they mention her origins, yeah, and her home planet. That name gets said though, 100%.
in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, have you seen it?
Yeah, I did.
What'd you think?
So I don't normally go see movies in the theater, and I haven't been a fan of Marvel movies for quite some time. I just haven't. But yeah, I went and saw that one with family, and there definitely is a lot of like takeaways in terms of the bigger picture. There's a lot of symbolism. Spoiler alert, like, I mean, even like at the end, the contraption that they make to trap Galactus, it's like a triangle inside of a giant circle. There's like it makes like this like portal with a circle, and then there's a triangle in the middle of it with like absolutely like an eye that's in the very center of it. It's so obvious. It's so obvious.
So that's kind of like a sigil thing too. Is with
totally looked like a sigil. Yeah, without even a doubt. But yeah, no, it was. In fact, I thought when you were mentioning the name from the comics that you had seen it also, because they literally like they tell the backstory, whatever the flame guy's name is. I don't remember his name, but
the Human Torch, Johnny Storm.
There's like these sounds that they're getting from space, and he like decodes it, and he uses her language and like learns her language based off these recordings that they're getting from space, and he like somehow pieces it all together and figures out her name, her home planet, her origin story, and they show the background of how she became the Silver Surfer, how she was once human. Basically, she was taken as a sacrifice to spare her home planet. Then literally, yeah.
Yeah, that's again, take all the symbolism out of it. It kind of sucks because that's what the Silver Surfer did. That's what Norrin Rad, the original Silver Surfer, did, is that he sacrificed himself to be Galactus's herald and said, "So don't destroy my planet. I'll serve you and I'll help you destroy other planets." What's kind of funny too is that the planet is called Zen La, which is like Zen, like heaven, almost like Shangri-La. So it's like he came from heaven and agreed to work for this evil god if he would spare that one. But yeah, it's always like in the comic books, he was always thinking back about his wife, like why he did it. So then of course they say, well, let's make the chick do it this time instead of, how the story actually.
And it was the same story, but flipped. Like, she had family there. They didn't show a husband. but they showed like that she had family. She was like a scientist or whatever from her planet. But the whole premise of the movie
She
was
non-binary and trans, probably.
Probably.
I don't know. She looked pretty feminine to me in the flashbacks that they made, but the whole premise of the movie though was Galactus was willing to spare Earth if the two main Fantastic Four people, the husband and wife, whatever their names are, if they would give up their son.
I saw the spoilers. I saw the
Wow.
the nerd-rotic review of that, and I was like,
What
what
would
kind
they
of
do with
story
the
is that?
son?
It's like, so Galactus destroys worlds, but he wants to take somebody's baby.
So I mean, if we're gonna go full all in, we already gave a bunch of spoiler alerts. So if we're going all in
I'm
on
never
this,
gonna watch it, so I don't care.
okay,
Go for it.
So I'm actually shocked that I watched it, but for the sake of, I obviously watched it for this podcast. So the way it goes down is Silver Surfer comes to Earth, threatens the Earth, tells the Fantastic Four what's about to happen. Fantastic Four goes to space, finds Galactus, because they're like, we're going to deal with this out there before they ever even have a chance to get to Earth. They find Galactus's ship. They get pulled onto the ship. They get taken to Galactus. Well, as they're showing up to Galactus's ship, they get scanned. And this scan that scans them stops and focuses on the wife's belly. And it like obviously notices that she's got a baby in her stomach. And so they go inside, they're standing there, and Galactus basically is standing there in front of them, and he tells them straight up he'll spare them if they give him the child. And his reasoning for giving him the child was that he was tired because he's been, like, he was chosen at some point in time, and he's been consuming planets, and he's sick of destroying and consuming planets. He just wants to move on. The child was going to take his place.
They introduced this new character, and they already make him tired and wanting to retire.
Right? But like the child was going to take his place as the world devourer so that he could stop. And he was trying to say the child's got powers that you have no idea of. You don't know what he's capable of, all that. And they're like, we already ran all the tests. There's nothing special about him. He's normal, basic, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so he's hell-bent on getting their child. And again,
I'm confused. For one, Galactus is like a god, so like, why is this child anything like him?
Because it's
and two, it's like, why does Galactus care if anybody else is destroying planet? It's kind of like that. He's kind of in the movie. He's like really agnostic to things. He does, like I said, he just doesn't care. He's only really has this one desire is to do what he does.
Well, he wants to retire.
Like, why would he? Like, what is he going to do? Like, how does that benefit him? He wants
to hit the beach, I guess.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying. Is he's like Thanos? He wants to go rest in the Garden of Eden afterwards. Like, why does he care? Why does he want the somebody else to continue to destroy worlds when he's not doing it?
The only explanation they give is that he's exhausted because he's been doing it for eons, evidently. And this child,
he's like the Dread Pirates Roberts. He's got to just
right,
pass on.
Right. And allegedly, this child is the only one that possesses the power to be able to take over what he's been doing. That's the story.
I'm gonna spare your planet, but then I'm gonna let him destroy it later.
Yeah.
Basically.
I'm gonna let your son eat the planet later.
There's some plot holes, that's for sure.
Huh. So the radioactive baby is magic, and you know, capable of replacing him. Apparently.
So we don't fully discover, like, they don't fully explain in the movie what the baby's capable of, but again, spoiler alerts, in the end, it ends up saving the mom's life. Like, they lay the baby on the mom's chest because she dies because she uses all of her energy to get Galactus through the portal. And then after the cutscenes, when they show like the scene, after the credits, in that scene, it shows the baby like a few years old. And the mom goes out of the room for a minute, and she comes back. And when she comes in, Dr. Doom is in front of the baby. And they just show Dr. Doom like from the side, and he's got his mask off. And he's like standing or kneeling down directly in front of the baby. So the baby's going to have some kind of role in the future in the new Doom movies.
It's almost like
super.
Could it be like a Gnostic thing where the baby represents Jesus, and this God wants to, well, not quite sacrifice the baby, but he wants the baby sacrificed in their eyes, Because
I mean, I don't see how you can't take that implication from it when they wanted them to sacrifice their baby to save Earth. Because there's like a bunch of
this
like everyone on
this magic baby needs to be sacrificed.
yeah,
in order to
everyone on
save all
Earth
of
gets mad at the Fantastic Four for not being willing to sacrifice their baby to save the Earth. Like they start turning on them because they're like, it's an obvious decision.
So why did they tell the people that they had that option? Like, maybe just don't tell, I don't know, 8 billion people that could have saved you all, but gonna take option B. We're gonna fight them.
Yeah, in their universe, they obviously didn't have secret societies governing what they said to the public
for the greater good. Yeah, that's wild. It was funny. I was joking on my live stream though. I was saying like that. This is my jam. Like this is my jam watching these kind of movies. But I said there was a time where the Marvel movies weren't so painful to sit through. Like I liked searching for the code, but this feels like almost like combing through somebody's trash. Like, okay, I'm gonna find a receipt or something like that. I'm getting my hands all dirty. Like I can't. They have to make the movies better. I've tried to watch a few of these Marvel movies because I know that they all have coded messages, but I cannot sit through like 90% of them now. Like the new ones, like the TV shows and stuff, I put them on for a second. I'm just like, I can't. I mean, I have to like, I need tune that heart to be my eyes and ears on some of these things.
Well, to be fair, so like I felt the same way for a very long time. They've gotten bad even like from a cinematography perspective.
Oh yeah,
like the story writing, the filming.
Well, you know, it's another thing is with the Silver Surfer. Okay, so I can't remember what year it was. It might have been 2007 that they actually had Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, and if you go compare the CGI from the last one to this one, that CGI looks better back in the day, and that movie was getting clowned on.
Yeah, I believe that. This one felt like to be honest with you, the only reason I wanted to see it was because of the cinematography and the way that it was filmed in kind of like a retro futuristic setting, which is kind of like my vibe. But that was the real reason I went to see it. And honestly, I just kind of wanted to get out and do something because I've been a hermit as of late. But that's the first movie I've gone to see in the theaters in honestly probably like 7 years.
Bro,
so
yeah, nobody's judging you, bro. Like, watch it.
I'm judging myself.
Yeah, Rise of the Silver Surfer was 2007, so that movie's 18 years older. And wow. I guarantee you, look at it. That movie, that was a weird one, but that was funny too, because in that movie, Galactus literally was just this cloud, which again almost more represents like, you know, the Exodus story, how God's described. It's like there's a cloud and there's fire in the cloud and it's coming to consume the whole earth. And that movie had some issues. But the stuff with the Silver Surfer in that movie was actually pretty cool. Especially when he takes Johnny Storm up to space, chokes him, and just drops him to Earth. There was a lot of cool stuff about that movie. Because like I said, the character
There's a similar scene like that in this one.
Oh, I'm sure they probably copied anything they could that was good. But yeah. No, but anyways, that's interesting.
Creativity. And you know it's funny? I saw the Jurassic Park movie that just recently came out. And it was the first time I watched a movie in about, I don't know, 5 years in theaters. And I went and watched the Jurassic Park movie and with some friends or whatever, but like it was the whole movie was an homage to the first one. I don't know if you guys have seen that. The whole movie. They even had the toe tapping scene with the raptors. They even had the part where the dude's arm gets taken off. They literally, like, the whole movie was like an homage. It was literally like a remake of the first
regurgitation
movie. It was, they were in a store and the raptors were walking down the aisles and they were doing the toe tapping thing. But it was just different looking raptors. And it was like, I was like, whoa, this is so weird to see this movie just like the same exact movie. I don't even watch movies. I don't even know why I watched it. I just was like, sure, I'll watch it because it was Jurassic Park, whatever.
Isn't it crazy, though, that, as I just mentioned, the CGI in 18 years later is worse than the Rise of Silver Surfer? And that, again, that didn't have probably a huge budget. I mean, I can only imagine the difference in the budgets between that movie and this current one. But then you go back to almost like the first real big CGI movie was Jurassic Park. And that movie looks so much better than probably any movie made this year. like they had the right amount of, I guess, practical effects and CGI, and they did things to kind of hide that, like puts rain in the scene, and it was dark, and
Dude, I'm a fan of some of those old cheesy animatronics. Like,
they're better than
I
the
miss
stuff
that
now.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that.
Real practical stuff. But you know what? This might be a good transition because I watched something because I did not go to the movies, believe it or not. I can't believe you guys saw movies and I did not.
I know.
But I did watch the Trainwreck series. I've been watching some of those Trainwreck ones on Netflix. Have you seen any of those, Aaron?
I haven't even heard of it.
They have like all these little kind of mini like documentaries on Netflix, and one of them was called Trainwreck Area 51. And I really have one thing I want to say about this, but I'm going to play a clip from this. This wasn't actually from the documentary, but we'll talk about the raid on Area 51.
In the wake of the FBI's visit, Roberts claims that he was joking all along and that he never actually intended for anyone to heed his call.
I was just kind of like, I didn't think anybody was going to take it too seriously because when I created the event on Facebook, it was meant as a joke, kind of like tongue-in-cheek. Never intended for it to go this far. It was terrifying.
But whether Roberts wanted people to take him seriously or not, by early July, it seemed nothing could derail what he had set in motion. August 2019. Maddie Roberts' original post has now been reposted hundreds of thousands of times. Over 2 million people have indicated they plan to descend on Area 51 in September and storm the top-secret base. No one has any idea how many might actually attend. And both the government and the media gear up to blame Roberts if things turn into an ugly confrontation between the military and tens of thousands of UFO enthusiasts.
Okay, the main reason I wanted to play that, we can talk a little bit about that. If you guys even remember that, the raid on Area 51.
I remember that. My friend Francois, because that guy's from my hometown.
No, I specifically wanted to question you about this, Brian, because I feel like I'm Tyler, the fittest flat earther right now. Brian, this guy supposedly is from where you're from. This is the guy right here. So if this is the police sketch of the guy who made the first post about raid Area 51, Brian, tell me that's not you.
Well, the funniest part is that guy's from Bakersfield.
That guy is from, when I saw the guy was from Bakersfield and he looked like that, I said, take 6 years off Brian, give him a shave.
Definitely no.
Bro.
Definitely no. But yeah.
You've been holding out on me. That's you, bro.
Oh man, funny. That guy though, I will tell you, he's not the original post maker.
Well, I just watched the whole thing on Netflix, a 2-part whatever documentary. So he's taking
post maker.
So he's taking credit for it, but he actually didn't do it.
Nope. In fact, I know the whole story. It was literally in my backyard, bro. Like the original post creator was.
Is this an admission right now, Brian?
What do you mean an ambition? No.
An admission, I think is what he meant to say.
No,
an admission.
He didn't do it. I did it. Like I was posing to be me.
No, but it's funny because the other guy that actually did the post looks just like me, and and people think we're the same guy. The original guy, his name was Francois.
They're not the only ones.
We look similar, and like people would be like, "Hey, you guys look the same," like me and Francois. And so Francois was the original post creator who made the Let's Storm Area 51 post, and he like does a bunch of stuff online and like tries to get events going. That guy reposted Francois's post, and then his for some reason went viral and got traction, and then he acted like he was the one that created it. He didn't create it. Francois created it. And totally different. Like, so there is a conspiracy kind of tied to it. But
I was gonna say Bakersfield certainly has a look.
I guess it has a look.
Got a look. I used to think Brian was an original, but I'm like, wait. So let me ask you a question though.
There's not a lot of people that look like me, by the way, here, but it just so happens the famous ones look like this.
All the ones who do want to raid Area 51.
Yeah,
They're all from Bakersfield.
So Were you ever considering getting in on that? Were you considering
Oh,
going?
totally. I was like, this sounds fun. Like maybe we'll do it. Maybe I'll do it with you, bro. Like, and then I was like, but then when that guy started doing it and his stuff started getting popular, I was like, oh, bro, wait, why is his stuff getting blown? Why is he doing it? Why is he trying to organize the same event? And then my buddy Francois was just like, I don't know, what the heck? Like, he's like stealing all my ideas. It was like, oh, dude, this is dumb. But then it like really got some traction. And then I was like, dang, good thing, Francois, you didn't do it, because you would have gotten raided and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. So, Aaron, do you remember that story? Like, I mean, it was one of those things where I was busy doing other things, but I was aware of this idea that people were going to try to raid Area 51. But do you remember that?
Vaguely. I remember, like, only things I remember is I remember people talking about it, and I remember thinking, there's no way I would ever get caught up in something like that. Like, it just felt like a complete, like, sham from the very beginning, like a total trap.
It seems like it was started by a Fed.
Yeah, it just I don't know. Anything that was going to go down legit like that wouldn't make mainstream news. You know what I mean? Those were kind of my thoughts.
Well, it is kind of funny to think how, like, knowing how we look at social media a certain way now, we know that certain things get pushed into the algorithm. I mean, the way that this story is, we're supposed to believe based on the Netflix show, is this guy had this Facebook page that only had 40 followers to it. He posts this post about raiding Area 51, and this thing eventually gets like 3.5 million people say they're going on like the post. So, I mean, like, from my perspective, it's like, that doesn't seem realistic. Like, there's no way that this thing would die on the vine on this guy's page, unless somebody gave it some help to get it to some.
Exactly.
Every celebrity eventually was making content about this at the same time. And then, yeah, it was like this massive story. And I guess it's the funny thing is, like, because again, I'm doing so many other things back then, I don't care about that. And of course, I just thought, oh, they're never going to do that. That's not real. And then so I was just going about my business. But the funny part about the end of this, how it ends, of course, it ends up being a big nothing burger at the end. A lot of stuff happens, but it fizzles out. And they were saying, like, that the town of, I guess, Rachel, Nevada is really close to there. They lost about $250,000 by trying to get all this additional security and police force and stuff to prepare for it. But they said the government spent $11 million on extra security for Area 51. And I was like, there's no way they did that. They, like, money laundering.
Yeah, they're just using
Like,
it as an excuse.
like you're really telling me that Area 51 wasn't secure enough to stop a bunch of knuckleheads at the gates.
And they got a lot of data. They found out a lot about a lot of people.
This is the original poster, the original dude that made the post. But
Dude, that is you.
This is him, guys. Hold on, Brian. You got any glasses nearby?
Bro, yeah.
That would be so funny. Like, Brian would be like, you know, if they did, like, what is the Unabomber, Richard Reeve, and they did a sketch, it would be like, this man has got long hair, he's got the beard of the plant. How much do I get if I turn him in?
But no, the original poster guy, Francois, he made the original post and it got a bunch of traction, and then somehow that guy, like, stole the limelight. And then it went to that guy. So it was actually from a totally different account, totally different person originally. And Francois was a little bit upset when that guy, like, stole it. And that's the people, they contacted that guy, and he lied and said that he was the one that started it. He didn't say that Francois started it. So he got all the fame. Francois, though, works for Facebook now. And yeah, so I don't know.
The Maddie guy didn't seem like he benefited all that much from that, whatever that was. He got internet famous, and he went back to working at a vape shop, according to him.
Yeah, basically.
So it's probably good that guy didn't put his name to that, because it did seem like there was really nothing that was good that could have came of that, because obviously that's what the whole show is kind of portraying. It's like, if you have all these people come out to the desert and they do anything if they get hurt or if they provoke the government in some kind of way, you started this, and you're going to prison for this. So it was kind of like that. They were trying to figure out ways to make money off it, but at the end of the day, it's like Area 51 is in the middle of nowhere, so there's no infrastructure to do anything there. That town of Rachel was just like a bunch of double wides and just desert. There's nothing they could do.
It's not the kind of place you pass through. You have to intentionally go there.
Yeah, I guess the only thing they had Vegas in the vicinity, but the whole allure of it was that people were going to come from all over the place to go to Area 51. It wasn't about like, so if you do something in Vegas, and I think eventually that's what they did. They did some kind of EDM concert in Vegas, and they had like 10,000 people show up. So not quite 2 million. And they probably only had, they look like, if you watch the documentary, by the time they get to Area 51, there was like more security and news people than there were people there to raid the base.
That's pretty funny.
It was even more funny that, Brian, you didn't tell me any of this stuff before. I can't even believe I had to watch it on Netflix.
I know the guy. I know probably the other guy too, Maddie or whatever. He's a friend of a friend, I'm sure.
Dude, that this is the guy moment is a real. Look at the way he holds up that picture next to his own face. It's like all you're missing is the glasses. That was crazy.
That is just too funny. Well, let's switch gears now. I'm trying to think where we should even go now.
I was just gonna say we could segue that into the video that I shared, because there is a commonality between that and in the sense of where I want to go with that clip in terms of like how things appear when the masses are breathing life into it, or when famous people are breathing life into it.
Yeah.
You got to question the narrative when certain people are talking about these topics.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. So this is cool because I want to have, when I have a guest on from now on, they got to bring a video. They got to bring at least one video. And Aaron found a video that I found, so I was like, perfect. He's got great taste.
The book of Revelations was written in the cave of the apocalypse here on Patmos Island. This is John being given the vision from God. That's his apprentice writing down his visions. And this is the cave where it happened. So in this cave, he said he could hear God's voice from this little crevice here. And there was an earthquake that split these rocks, and while he had these visions, his apprentice would write them down. He slept in the cave. This hole was carved out for his head as like a little rock pillow, and where that red cloth is where his apprentice wrote everything down. So the book of Revelations written right there. One of the traditions is to place your hands in this hole where St. John placed his to pray. I hope you guys liked the tour and you learned something like I did.
Why would there be a hole there to put your hands to pray? That to me was like a shackle joint that just broke out. Maybe. I mean, why would there be a hole there? That's so not accurate.
There's a lot of questions when I saw this video. So, first of all, that wasn't just any content creator. That was Jewel.
Yeah, Jewel, the
artist.
Yeah, the musician,
Jewel.
or the pop performer, Jewel.
So my question is this. Well, first of all, if you go look at the comment section, I made sure to add in there, I put an asterisk and I put Revelation with no S at the end of it.
Yeah, everyone says Revelations.
But like, my thing is this, and this is where it kind of ties into like the little season or the short season. Why all of the sudden do all of these big name artists and celebrities want to talk about Revelation?
Mm-hmm.
Why all of the sudden do they want to talk about the Bible?
Indeed.
They've had all of this time. They've had all of this time to talk about Jesus. They've had all of this time to talk about faith. They've had all of this time to talk about the Gospels, any aspect of faith whatsoever, and they didn't. They haven't. But right now they want to talk about Revelation. And to me, it kind of goes hand in hand with like Ryan Garcia when he was hyping things up for that fight, and he was talking about how Jesus is coming back soon and saying all of these things, and you got all of the pre-tribbers going, yeah, see, we told you guys, and it's like, hold on though, if we were in the short season, isn't it safe to say that the devil would have a lot of foot soldiers? And isn't it safe to say that those foot soldiers would be carrying out very specific orders? And isn't it safe to say that those orders would be specifically to fool us all into believing that we're in a time frame that perhaps we're not, and to prepare us for something that's not about to take place? I don't know. Like, to me, it's like a common sense thing in addition to all of the other arguments or conversations. I don't know. To me, it's not really an argument, because in my experience, the people that see it as us being in the short season, like, they don't really argue. They're not really argumentative. They're just expressing findings and expressing, like, the literal translation of what it says in the word, and trying to figure out that based on, our reality. With Brian, you had asked me earlier, how I got to that conclusion, or like what led me there. And for me, before it was even scripture, it was just doing the math on all of the findings of, like, some of the coins that they had found in the past, different things that they had found with the I in front of it, or the J in front of the years, the 1,000 years that kind of fabricated out of nowhere, the fact that, like, we live in a society where everything's introverted, and it would just make sense that the Dark Ages would have not been the Dark Ages at all, and they just so happen to be just shy of 1,000 years. Like, it was really just like kind of a calculator for me. Like, I'm always calculating numbers in my mind. I really can't help it. And it just made sense to me. And so then when the idea of the short season was presented, I was just like, oh my gosh, like, that makes so much sense. And so in this situation, to me, again, it's kind of just like doing the basic math on why are so many celebrities hell-bent on talking about Revelation right now.
It's very peculiar. It's very suspicious. I think it's pretty, definitely pays homage to the idea that maybe they're trying to control something. I feel like there's two parts to that. I think, like, one aspect is maybe that the Lord, there is something coming. I will tell you right now, there is something coming, but it ain't
without a doubt.
It ain't what people think is coming. It ain't
Agreed.
gonna be good.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lord is, like, waking his people up and calling people to him right now like never before. And that should be very concerning to a lot of people. That should be very concerning that God is just, like, waking people up left and right now, because that means something about to go down. And I don't know what. I don't think it's going to be a good one, but it is concerning when popular people are talking about the Lord too at the same time, because it's like, obviously there's like a divide. Somebody's trying to mislead people to some direction.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what we've said a lot is that it just makes sense is that if you tell people it's the end times, then people look at things getting bad and they're not as resistant to them, because I'm gonna be out of here soon anyways, who cares? It's like shuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic. Well, what's the point? The band's playing, like, it's fine, let's just get out of here. Just get me on the lifeboat and I'm out of here.
And I think you convince them all, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's what I was just going to say, is that I just think that it makes sense that, yeah, you tell them it's the end times and then they'll accept a bunch of evil stuff happening.
And if you convince them all that the rapture is happening soon and Jesus is coming back for everybody,
they won't fight.
That, and also, what bigger rug pull could there possibly be for believers that aren't prepared?
Yeah, talk about people walking away from their faith too. It's like that I didn't think I was going to have to go through anything bad. I've been told that forever I wasn't going to.
The biggest rug pull in history. And that goes hand in hand with that Illuminati playing card that shows the UFOs over the churches. There's like there's an Illuminati player card that shows a bunch of flying saucers over a church, and it says, like, Church of a Middle America, and the saying on it says, they'll never see it coming, or they'll never know what hit them. It's either they'll never see it coming, or they'll never know what hit them. And to me, that goes hand in hand with all of this. Like, I genuinely believe that they're planning on having a fake rapture where they're using fallen angel tech to use these UFOs to beam people up. I truly believe that. That's
So
what I think it's going to be a false rapture.
So what you're saying is we probably should raid Area 51. We need to stop them. One thing I want to go back and show real quick, though, is that go back to this video and just look at this little still I picked from there. What the heck is this cave? Tell me this thing doesn't look like it's been melted.
And where's the crack that he supposedly heard God through a crack? Where'd you get that information?
But just look at all the stuff up here with the block on top of it. And then even go over to here.
That's the crack that they were talking about right there.
Yeah, but where did they get that information?
Great question.
Well, look.
From the same mushrooms that John used, I guess.
Yeah. Well, look at this. You see over here? Can't you see, like, where this used to be regular stone? Yeah, like right there. Like, this thing was molded together. This used to be probably brick or something. And now it looks like...
That's a good observation.
It looks like a mountain now.
That's not typical stone, that's for sure.
Yeah, the hand... He puts his hand in a hole. What? Why would you put your hand in a hole when you pray?
Yeah,
right?
What the heck is that about?
Like, hey, servant, carve me a hole to put my hands in when I pray. Otherwise, he won't hear my prayers.
I don't know what to do with my hands when I pray, so I stick them in this hole.
Yeah, give me a hole.
Wait, I thought he was in prison. Why did he have a servant? Where's the man? I've never heard about the maid servant.
So many
where
questions.
did that come from?
Well, it's not in the Bible. I know that. I'm confident in that.
One major takeaway that I got from all of this too is I was also talking about before we started filming. A lot of the people making content on TikTok, especially, that were just kind of like up and coming when my accounts got banned before I stopped making that kind of content. They're bigger now on these platforms and they're becoming more bold in their beliefs and the things that they share. And one of the things that I've noticed is, and if somebody would like to try to prove me wrong on this, I would humbly accept any findings that you find to the contrary. But to my own experience, it's all of the people that believe that the rapture is coming and they believe in the pre-tribulation. They're the ones saying that people like us are teaching the doctrines of demons.
Yes.
They're the ones calling us heretics. They're calling us names. They're being aggressively negative and mean and rude towards people like us. Whereas everybody discussing the little season is doing it gracefully. They're doing it like calmly. Like, we're not harping on those people. We're not ripping on them. We're not making fun of them. Like, because again, our stance is Jesus is still on the throne. Like, Jesus is still king. Like, all of that still stands. So, like, I mean, goodness, yeah, praise Jesus if the rapture happens and it's legit. Like, are you kidding me? Like, take me home. I'm all over that. But I'm fully prepared for that to not be the case. And I think the reason there's so much aggression from that camp is because they quite literally aren't emotionally prepared to handle the fact that they're going to be here for all of that.
There's another aspect. Can I say something about
Please.
that? 'Cause there's another aspect to why they get so angry, I've realized. And it's because their faith has been based off of the Churchianity's fear that Churchianity has told you. You come to Jesus or revelation's going to happen. We're all going to. And so their faith isn't based in God. It's based in fear. And they don't even realize that. And it's not. And so when we question it, it's like their whole faith begins to crumble. And the reality is this: when you realize that Christ isn't coming to take you away in a snap of a finger, when you come to that realization, you know what you have to do? You got to look at yourself. And you really got to be like, well, what's the point of this life? And who am I? And what am I supposed to do? And they're not ready to face that understanding whatsoever, it seems, because then it's like, well, what's it mean to be a good person? Like, is that what it is? Suffering supposed to be a part of life? Like, what? Like, you have to answer all these other questions that you've been pushing off, thinking, oh, but it's okay. It won't happen when I just disappear.
Yeah, 100% facts. That's what well, anyways, that's the way I see it too. Is that I remember speaking personally for me was when I woke up and I started posting on social media. I remember at one point I thought, like, this is the end. Like, I better start doing something now. And then a lot of things I was just thinking about, like, well, who cares? Like, the end's coming. So I'm just going to do this right now. So I was really looking at the clock and I'm like, I don't know, maybe 2029 at the latest. Like, this is all done. This is all up in smoke. And then at one point I started to think, what if I'm wrong? What if it's later? I still have a lot of things that I should probably be planning to do, and a lot of life to live, and maybe to do other things, and not necessarily just. I know we're not supposed to plan way ahead, where we don't know when God's calling us home, but at the same time, you do have to at least try to think that I might be here till I'm 80. So then, what does your life look like if you're going to live to be 80? And I do think that sometimes it's like for a guy like me who never really knew what I wanted to do with my life for a really long time, that's scary to think about that. It's much easier to say, well, maybe I'll get disappeared in my prime. And if somebody tells you, no, you're going to have to live, and you're going to have to live through some hard times, you're going to have to deal with all of it, whatever comes. Yeah, and it does almost feel like that. Kind of that meme. Remember when Trump got elected the first time, and there was that one woman who was just screaming, "No!" And she was That feels like the millennial and Gen Z content creators are saying the rapture's coming at any moment. When you say, "I think Jesus already came back," no.
But to Brian's point, like it literally comes down to those who have stared death in the eyes and said, "Okay, like my salvation is secure. I know who I am. I know where I'm going." Like you genuinely, and I'm not saying this as some like tough guy that's like, I'm just saying like you truly have to get to the end of yourself and get to the point where death is not something you're afraid of, and death is not something you're scared of. Because to your point again, Brian, earlier, I do believe something catastrophic is coming. I do believe chaos is coming, and that there will be a lot of death in various ways. We see all of the makings of that in so many different capacities right now. So yeah, I do believe that catastrophic stuff is coming. But it's like, if you haven't gotten comfortable with the idea of death at any level, at any point, right? Because we're not even promised tomorrow. Most of those people that believe in the rapture haven't done that. And so the Jesus that they believe in is coupled with that gentle, loving Jesus that would never put us through all of that stuff. Even though all of the disciples, that had the most brutal deaths imaginable, not us, right? Like we deserve to be taken to heaven on a cloud. And it's like, if we're wrong, praise Jesus. But if they're wrong, then what? Like, and it's not about us. It's not about like a group of people being right and a group of people being wrong. Like it hurts my heart that most of these people are not spiritually, emotionally prepared for what it could mean if the rapture doesn't take place, and if we are going to be here for all of that stuff, which is what I believe. Like, it hurts my heart for them, because it kind of goes hand in hand with that scripture of people's hearts failing them towards the end. I feel like that's the group of people whose hearts will fail them.
Oh my gosh, you just said something. People's hearts failing them, bro. That little.
No. That was not what that was about. Come on.
I know. But
you can try to get me banned from YouTube by bringing that up. No, but check this out. My brother posted this meme on Facebook today, and I thought it was really good. This is really apt. It says, "Fear is what if, faith is even if."
Amen.
And that's perfect.
Love
that's kind of
that.
perfect for this discussion, because
perfect.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. I feel like that is where God has helped me grow in lots of places, where like, you get to like this topic, the short season. I didn't want to believe this, but then I was like the evidence and just the way that the Holy Spirit was kind of speaking to me, it became overwhelming, and I was just like, ugh. But then you have
it's undeniable if you're truly seeking truth.
But then you have to eventually you have to think like, well, even if this is true, then I still believe that God is going to take care of me no matter what happens. And then you're like, oh man. And then of course the weight off your shoulders, the sick stomach goes away, and you start to think like, this is not so bad. This is pretty interesting, actually. And of course, as people on this who watch this channel know, it's super interesting because then things just start to make so much sense. And I really feel like it. I was just thinking about this today. So many of these people who try so hard to debunk the little season, it's like the little season can't be true because this one thing. So they focus on why it can't be true, but they don't actually look to see if it could be true. So they're like always saying, they like find one verse and they say, this could not have happened, so therefore the whole thing is bunk. Instead of like using the opposite way of saying, dang, there is a lot of evidence to say something like this could have taken place. And if they, if they're, and I think that's, I do really feel like that's the difference between the people who are, I mean, I'm not
humility.
I'm not really, I'm not upset with anybody who's not fully on board yet. Because even I would say, I'm giving myself a little wiggle room to say I'm like 99% sure, but I can't say I'm 100% sure.
None of us can say it's 100%. Yeah.
99, 98.
Yes.
Same.
So if you're not fully on board, that's fine. Again, we're still like in the infancy of this, really. Like only been talking about it for like just going on almost 2 years now. But the people who do see it, they have had a willingness to say, well, let me look. And they weren't immediately saying that can't be true. But they've looked and they're like, there's a lot there.
We don't want it to be true. I don't want that to be true.
Well, again, I mean? I always say that this is the last thing you could say is the little season is the itching ear doctrine.
Yeah, it's definitely
not. I feel like that's where they really like, again, what's the itching ear doctrine? That you're going to be disappeared one day out of nowhere. And how do you even prepare for that? I think that's where you get to some people. Talk about people who are really ridiculous. You literally have some people saying that because they're mad that if you don't agree with their eschatology, if you don't believe in the pre-trib rapture, you won't be raptured. So you've heard people say that, right?
Yes, I've heard people say that.
For real. They'll say that, because if you think, even this is before when I was believing in
such a fear tactic.
Like, you'll be left behind if you don't believe in the pre-trib is what they say.
Rapture, if you don't believe in it,
it's hilarious.
Like, even if you believe that we're still before the millennial reign, if you believe that the rapture is after the tribulation, even when Jesus says directly after the tribulation of those days, this happens. If you believe that you won't make it on the rapture and you're going to have to go through the tribulation. And you're like,
that is Kirk Cameron fear tactics right there.
Well, yeah, no, but what Brian said earlier, I said, we've discussed that quite a few times about how I know it because I lived it. I went to
know Jesus.
I went to youth group and all that stuff. And I went to the events where they scared the crap out of us. Same. It was all fire and brimstone. And like, you're going to have to get the mark of the beast, or you're going to go to the guillotine. And I said, I think that, I don't feel like that's a good way to try to convert people. Like, because it literally is, it's like with a gun to your head. Do you want me to pull the trigger or not? And you're like, no, I'll do anything. And so, I feel like that those kind of conversions, I just don't think that, I don't know how that works that well.
Well, the fear of God is necessary, right?
Yeah.
Like, it is absolutely necessary, but not in that way. Like, not with an argument, not with an ultimatum. Like, it needs to be organic, right? Like, it needs to be something, like, I've had so many near-death experiences, but like the last few that I had were life-changing for me. And they just showed me how real all of this stuff is, and the spiritual warfare and the demonic realm and like just all of that stuff. I always knew that because I had a near-death experience at 5, but like they got more and more intense as I got older. And I guess for me, the whole, for me, it's like this. I
want to know this near-death experience, but sorry, continue.
Well, dude, I've had so many of them. That's a whole podcast right there. My last one, especially the last one that I had was in Sedona in the middle of a vortex. I'll just leave it that way.
We'll have to do a whole podcast on that. It's
crazy. I actually don't even know if I'm ready to talk about it, but when I am ready to talk about it, we'll do it on your pod. But my stance is this: if you sit down like brother to brother, brother to sister, whatever, and we're all just being totally real and honest with each other, what do we have to gain by sticking our necks out and trying to get people to see the short season for what it is?
Yeah,
like,
nothing.
What do we really have to gain? other than getting a brother or sister to increase their faith. That's it. Like, that's it.
No.
Yeah.
Like,
Gains.
we don't gain anything from it. Like, there's nothing for us to gain. There's certainly no cool points that come along with it. Like, we don't, like, if anything, there's like shame and guilt that comes along with it, and being called a heretic and being called, someone that's speaking doctrines of demons and all of that. And it's like, I just think that everyone needs to be a lot slower to speak when it comes to some of the harsh ways that believers speak to one another. Because to me, that's like everything. When you see about how some of these people are talking about other brothers and sisters of the faith, you can tell so much by the extremities that they use in their verbiage about those other people. And it's like, we've got to have grace for one another. We've got to have patience. And like, where are the fruits of the Spirit is what I want to know when it comes to the way that some of these other content creators are talking about the people that believe in the short season. But I think JT, like, one of your videos you did a couple of weeks ago where you talked about the 7 churches, and he talked about how they've all been destroyed.
Yeah.
And you literally laid it all down and like backed it up with scripture and explained it. It's like, how do you even argue that? Like, what is there to argue about that?
They just
There's
say
no
no.
argument.
They just say nuh-uh is what they typically just say.
And it's like, wait, what? Like, no, literally, they've been destroyed. Like, what are you talking about? I don't understand how that argument just gets phased out. And where's John?
Yeah.
Like,
Do I have to
he's
pull
not
up
at Patmos.
Do I have to pull up the Beetlejuice meme that I made? And he's just hanging around, waiting for the end times to start.
Just hanging around. But no, but like you said, if you go line by line, item by item, and you're just so real about where we're at and what's taking place, and you don't get caught up in your feelings, I think that's the main thing. You can't get caught up in your feelings. You can't get caught up in your emotions.
It's humbleness. You have to be humble, and you can't have pride.
Spiritual maturity. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I feel like that's what God raises up the humble. He lowers down the prideful. And yeah, you can't teach somebody anything who knows everything.
Bro, there's so many pastors right now that are like teaching this doctrine. I had to talk with one, and they had spent so many years teaching that Revelation's coming. Bro, they couldn't even receive it. I tried to explain it. I explained it as gently as possible, showed all the evidence. They couldn't even. It was like because the realization, I saw it hit their face when they were like, oh shoot, this might be right. I saw the realization hit, and like all of a sudden they like pondered and they were like thinking like, what's that mean?
It's too much for them.
They're like, what does that mean? Dude, their whole world was like starting to melt because here they had been spending years telling people the rapture is going to happen and giving this as encouragement to people that died and to people that they've like that they've been around their whole life, and all of a sudden now you're wrong. Bro, you've been giving this promise to all these people, dude, and you realize you're wrong. Bro, they can't even do it.
It's amazing that the amount of things we've learned in the past like 3 years, just about kind of, you say historical apologetic type stuff about, like the unrepentant cities from Matthew 11 were all destroyed. Those churches in Revelation buried under the ground. And I've
unequivocally, that's not an opinion.
No,
that's a fact.
I have yet to hear somebody give me a good explanation why that's not relevant. The dispensationalists will say that those churches were never meant to be literal, even though it's like, so they were written to no one. So who are the people who got the letters from John? And so one of the answers I've often have heard from people is that, oh, well, a church is not a building. It's not a place. It's a body of Christ. And I'm like, there's no unbroken church from those places. You understand that? Like, some of those places are still like just archaeological sites. They're not places that people can live anymore. They've been made desolate. What's crazy too? Last podcast, Brian and I were showing this video. It was a guy talking about the short season, and he was tying in Satan's throne being in Berlin to being the little season. I was like, you know what? It's kind of crazy because we've talked about that altar to Zeus that was in Pergamum from Revelation chapter 2. And I never really thought about it from that angle of the short season, believe it or not. because what made me really kind of like it hit much harder when I thought, wait a minute. So the Germans didn't just take a temple apart that was already together in Pergamum. They likely had to dig up one and then take it to Berlin. And I was like, just think about the spiritual significance of that is that they took what the Bible describes as Satan's throne and they took it and put it together in Berlin, in their capital. But is there any other examples of anything like that taking place? Like, because, you know, in Ephesus, they had the temple to Artemis. Did anyone take that one apart and go build it somewhere else in Europe? What about any temples to Apollo? Did they build anything else besides they took they went to the one place that Jesus says Satan's throne is, and they excavated this place, and they took parts of a temple and they assembled it there because it was not all together. And I was like, dang, that's like if Satan got let out in the late 1700s, like 100 years later, they were building back his throne in Berlin. That's crazy, right? Like, you know, and that's why I said, just think about it even the way that the scripture's written. The scripture said that Pergamum is where Satan's throne is. It's not there anymore. So isn't that another clue that we're past this part of the book?
There's so much, dude. There's just so much. And it's I think the difference again between the two sides of the discussion, we'll call it a discussion, not an argument, is like you really got to pay attention. And this is just like psychology 101. Like you got to pay attention to the emotional state of the art of the people on each side, right? Like which ones are being aggressive, which ones are being like negative or like name calling, and which ones are like literally just sharing it from like an area of concern from their heart. You know what I mean? It's like you got to pay attention to that.
Yeah, there was a guy who's literally saying that it was blasphemy of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah,
to believe in the little season.
I saw somebody saying that we are workers of Satan, and it is completely satanic for us to even talk about it. And anybody that talks about it is satanic and from the devil.
So I would just be like, okay, like I respect the fact that you think that. Let's break that down.
I'm not wearing the shirt today. I can't believe I wasn't wearing it. Jesus said there'd be haters. Do you remember what was happening when Jesus was casting out demons? What did they say? They said he was casting out demons by the power of Satan.
Beelzebub. Yeah.
Yeah. So they said the same thing about Jesus and the apostles.
Very true.
That they were satanic.
It's very true.
For doing what they were doing. For going against the religious establishment.
Sidebar, there was a scene in the Fantastic Four where Galactus is setting foot down in New York, and he's like crossing the water, and he's just getting ready to step foot like on land in New York, and he passes by the Statue of Liberty. And they show the Statue of Liberty standing there, and he just looks at it and gazes at it. It's like a whole scene. Like they dedicated a whole scene to it. He gazes at it, and his eyes cross the gaze of the Statue of Liberty. It's on the left, he's on the right, and then he turns and keeps walking into New York.
He doesn't destroy it.
He doesn't destroy it.
That's funnier.
He doesn't destroy it.
That's interesting. It's kind of like, but you think about if he's the God character, it's almost like he's looking at him like that's my enemy over there.
Yeah. Oh my!
I mean, there's so many different ways to take that. You know what I mean?
You know what? Because we'll just stay on the short season theme because we probably got more to say about it. But this was a content creator who was normally just specialized in conspiracy, and I've never heard him say anything Christian before on his page. But I thought, I don't know if he's latching on to the movement or he's discovering the truth. Check this out.
I feel like a lot of Christians don't know this. When Jesus Christ returns for a second time, he will reign here on earth for 1,000 years with his glorified saints. And during this time, Satan will be locked up for these 1,000 years, so there will be no deception on earth. But after Jesus Christ reigns on earth for 1,000 years, Satan will be released for a short season to deceive all nations here on earth and to gather his army against God's people. This army is compared to grains of sand on a beach. And once he gathers this army, they will surround the camp of the saints, and then God will send fire from heaven, destroying the entire earth. That's when every single human who has ever lived will be resurrected to be judged. Judgment Day. And for everybody whose name is written in the book of life shall reside on the new earth that God creates. Here, and God's holy city will come down from heaven so God can reside here on the new earth. The one thing that gets me about this prophecy is that in the beginning of Revelation, when these things are being revealed to John, he is told to warn the 7 churches in Asia for what is to come. Mind you, this is 2,000 years ago. He's pretty much telling them to get their act together because when Jesus Christ comes back, if it's not, then they're toast. These are literal places that you can look up. So look them up and what do you see? They are all destroyed. All the ancient temples are in pieces there. And that can lead one to one conclusion.
Good point.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, but this guy, I can't remember what his original account was called. That guy had like almost 2 million followers. I think he got banned, like most.
Wow.
Yeah, like most people on
TikTok?
TikTok. Yeah, but he posted that video, and I like the way he came at it was that saying like most Christians don't know this. 100%. The things he was saying, most don't. And we were talking about this the other day, is that I feel like that the reason they don't is because with the Left Behind series and the pre-trib rapture talk, the finish line is the rapture, which they believe is before the tribulation. And I used to always think about like the churches I would go to. I was like, why aren't they talking about the book of Revelation before, when I was thinking it was coming? And I thought, you know what? If you think that you're going to be raptured before anything happens, the book of Revelation is kind of irrelevant to you, right? It's like, it really has no, you might skip to the end when you get to like the pearly gates and you hear about how great heaven's going to be. But the stuff in the middle, it's like, oh, that's going to be for somebody else. So they don't even bother studying it. But the things he said, he's 100% correct that most Christians do not know this. And I think that that's the difference between us and them, is that we know, whether we're wrong or we're right, that the rapture is not the finish line, because there's still a time of 1,000 years here. And there's also a time afterwards where the Satan is loose from his prison to deceive people again. So how can that be the end if the Bible says that's not the end? So if you look back at what he said, it's like, yeah, it's kind of like that. I don't know where this guy's heart is. I mean, it sounds like he must believe a little bit, because it sounded like he convicted in the things he said. But I do think that it does make Christians look silly when they're pointing to this book that supposedly was finished 2,000 years ago. And it's about these prophecies that are very imminent 2,000 years ago. But yet we're still here. And you still have generation after generation of Christians saying, oop, time's getting short. We're in the birth pains now. Any minute now. And that place is totally decimated. The place that the book was written to.
Yep. No, JD, you're supposed to take those things as metaphorical, and you're supposed to think that maybe you could be the Church of Laodicea. You don't even know, bro.
That's the games they like to play, is that they say, like, here's an example. So the Bible says that the mountains are going to be removed, the mountains and islands. Well, I have given myself at least a little room to think about it. I do believe that actual mountains were destroyed, but in the book of Isaiah is told by the Lord to prophesy against this mountain. And the mountain he's prophesying about is nations, the different nations they're going to be. So I think when it says that the mountains are going to be removed, I believe he's talking about the nations are going to be removed. So when people say, well, there's still mountains, so therefore we can't be there, I'm like, no. So you're saying that has to be literal, but the churches are actually metaphorical, right? The church, the letters to specific churches that's not actually literal. So you see, like you can't have it both ways, where you can't say that this has to be exactly like I think it's going to happen, and then say, oh, the letters to the churches were not actually real letters. You'd expect those things to happen to them, really. I feel like that's silly.
That's exactly what it is. It's like they think the metaphorical or the metaphysical things or metaphorical things are physical, and then the physical things are metaphorical. So they get it flip-flopped. That's exactly what it is. It's like all the things that, and the funny part is the parts that they take as metaphorical or metaphysical, those parts are obviously more physical than the ones that they think are going to be physical. Like a cube coming down out of heaven with the exact dimensions that wouldn't fit on the earth could be totally metaphysical. We don't know. It could be an actual thing. We don't know. But it's way more likely that part could be metaphysical in some aspect than it is for the letters to the Church of Laodicea, especially the one like Philippi,
Philadelphia, when it said
Philadelphia.
Yeah,
it's going to be spared. Yeah, well, it ain't spared now, bro.
How do you promise somebody they're going to be keeping from the hour of testing if the hour of testing never came?
Yeah. It's very obvious.
It would make Jesus a liar. It really is what they're saying.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think there's any other way to take that. Those people actually lived, and there was letters written to them. And again, if they had a continuous church tradition in Smyrna, Pergamum, Ephesus, and they could say, look, see this really old document that we have under glass right now? This is the original letter from John. We're still waiting, so it's still true to us.
Well, Brian touched earlier on the element of religion, and I think what it really comes down to is deliverance, if I'm being honest. I think that most of these people don't understand that they still need to be delivered from religion. They don't understand that they need to be delivered from every single demonic stronghold and principality that comes along with religion. And they don't, that's the sad part, is they don't truly know who they are in Christ Jesus yet. Like they can't stand on their own 2 feet alongside Jesus yet. It's like the comfort of the rapture, along with all of the other like Churchianese things that come along with that, the things that they were taught in Sunday school, or, you know, the Sunday Christian teachings or the Wednesday night teachings or whatever. They cannot get past it. They cannot get over it. And they never learned how to have that intimacy with Jesus on such a level that he said, hey, what about this? You know, like maybe you should look into this. Because the only thing that I know of that can keep a believer blind from doing basic math with their own faith is our spirits and principalities. Like when you need to be delivered, right? Right. Demons, like it's demons, because if they were being so real with themselves, like what would it hurt for anyone that believes all of that stuff to sit down and write down on a piece of paper which things from the Bible they're going to take literal and which things that they're going to take as metaphorical?
Yeah.
Right? Because once they wrote that down and they saw it on paper and they said, okay, I am literally cherry picking. Right? Like if they were honest with themselves and they took inventory on who they really are and the way they really see it, they would go, okay, so then why do I see all of these things as metaphorical and why do I choose to see these things as literal? If they're totally honest with themselves, they will be delivered through that process because they'll realize that they've come into agreement with lies, like absolute and complete lies. And I just don't think most believers are ready to go there. Yeah. I don't think that they know how to.
I want to tell you one thing, because you said that religion, they haven't been delivered from it. And the reality is this, guy, dude, I've got so many crazy theories on like researching this stuff, and I've gone through some deep diving holes, but I'm pretty sure Satan reinvented religion. Like, dude, Jesus came back.
Don't doubt it at all.
Bro, I personally think every single religion was restarted after the millennial reign by Satan himself, restarted all of the religions. And I talk about this on my channel, and I break down how like Hinduism is a perversion of Christianity, bro. And so is today, it's now a perversion. Like they have Brahma, who married Saraswati. Well, Brahma married Sarah, who is his father's daughter. Okay, well, he's the father of his daughter in Hinduism. Or like Sikhism, bro. Oh my gosh, Sikhism. You know what they call ourselves? They call themselves kings and priests. And do you know what they call the Christians? Because they're the millennial reign. They're after the Sikhism is such a huge key to understanding where we're at. But Sikhism literally, they call themselves kings and priests. They have the 10 gurus, which is a mirroring of the 10 commandments. One of their gurus is Krishna, who restores sight to the blind and lets the mute speak. Who do you think that is? It's Christ. Duh. And it's Guru Krishna. And then they literally have the 10 commandments, which is a mirroring of their 10 gurus. And their last commandment is a book. Well, guess what? One of their gurus tells them to read the Bible to have better understanding. They all carry a sword on them because Jesus said, carry a sword, sell your cloak and carry a sword. So they have to carry a sword on them. And they don't cut their hair after they get baptized. And they call the Christians Nazarenes because they're from Nazareth. They're Nazarenes. And so there's Nazarene Christians in Sikhism.
I want you to keep going, but I want to show you something real quick because I actually did see a really interesting TikTok video about somewhere in East India, I believe, kind of like the old megalithic stuff here. But one of the parts, it did make me think about little C's and stuff. I'm not sure if it relates, but check this out real quick.
This is part 2 of the ancient hospitals in Cambodia. And here's a mind-blowing fact. There are over 3,000 ancient temples scattered across Cambodia. But even more shocking, between 1969 and 1973, the U.S. dropped between 500,000 and 2 million tons of bombs over this region, right where many of these sacred sites still stand. Here you can see in red over 100,000 sites bombed. In part 1, I showed you how Pre-Kan wasn't just a temple. It was a healing chamber, a place where sound, vibration, and geometry were used to realign the human body and spirit. But that was just the beginning, because right behind Pre-Kan is something even stranger. A man-made lake called Jayataka Bere, built over 800 years ago by King Jay. And in the center of the lake sits a temple known as Nikpin. Now this is where the mystery deepens. Nikpin isn't just a shrine, it's a replica of the mythical Himalayan lake Anavatepta, said in ancient texts to heal all illnesses. And it's not metaphorical. There are 4 pools surrounding the center tower, each one aligned with one of the 4 elements: earth, water, fire, and wind. People came here to bathe, meditate, and rebalance their eternal energy. When you connect the dots, sound frequencies from Pre-Kan, the elemental healing waters from Nikpin, the layout of these temples aligned with cosmic geometry, you start to see this wasn't just architecture. There was an ancient operating system for healing the body, mind, and soul.
Super interesting.
I was just thinking the part about so it was supposedly 800 years ago this was built, and it was built by King Jay. What does that mean?
King Jesus.
I mean, that's what I was wondering. I mean, I know that's kind of probably reachy, but you know, you do have to wonder, like in Cambodia, I don't even know how this stuff makes any sense to the narrative. And I don't even know where they get that idea of where it was 800 years ago.
All the timeline things are so ridiculous when they try to figure out what they are, because there's so many different timelines kept within all these different cultures. And they've tried to line up specific events in this culture that lined up with that culture's timeline to say that, oh, well, this is how the timeline continued after that. Bro, why are all of our timelines, what's more important is why we've forgotten them all. Not only that, we forgot all the languages. We had to rediscover these languages. I don't know, people don't understand that. Like, we didn't know Egyptian. We had to rediscover Egyptian, bro. We found the Rosetta Stone and it helped us figure out a bunch of the old languages, but they didn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Like our languages stopped existing, our culture stopped existing, our temples stopped existing. society stopped existing, and then we have these massive burial tombs that we call the catacombs with a bunch of people's bones. If you
millions
yeah,
of people's
millions of people's bones, and if you carbon date them, any one of those bones, guess what? They all say they died at the same time. They don't say that these ones are older than these ones. Guess what? It's the same carbon. They're like, oh, well, maybe it's because the carbon of the other ones somehow transmuted into the other bones, and that's why they all look like they died at the same time. No, fool, they died at the same time. It's pretty obvious. That's why it looks like that to you.
Yeah, we were just talking about the other day on. I was talking with Josh about it, and I was thinking about it. Just think about the whole idea of like, those dumb Nicolas Cage movies like National Treasure and all these movies like the Da Vinci Code, and the whole mythos of like the Knights Templar going around discovering these ancient relics that were lost by time. Okay, let me just ask the most practical question here. How were they lost by time?
Yeah.
How are all these places being rediscovered? It's like, it seems like one of the most obvious questions, like that. I don't even know why I just didn't even just stumble upon it until the other day. I was just like, it is sort of weird that things got forgot, like all over the whole world.
Everything got forgot. Languages got forgot.
How did everything got forgotten? This is the thing. See, this is the thing. You can easily say, and I can totally buy it, that some of the Egyptian knowledge was lost because, doing ancient angels, and we're thinking, well, yeah, got a big flood. I mean, so we do know that certain things got lost, but we know that everything that's found on the earth is not from the days of Noah. So you have these things that are way later, that we know that are way later, that involve Rome and Greece and places like that. Because you think about if you read your Bible chronologically, Alexander the Great is somewhere in the middle of the Old Testament and the New Testament. So we think about like ancient Greece as being really long time ago, but that's the third empire on the Nebuchadnezzar statue, right? So the point is, like, all this stuff from ancient Greece being lost. Why is Greece all in ruins? Why is Rome all in ruins? Why are things all over in the Americas all been lost to time too? Because Revelation happened and it wrecked all the paperwork and all the notes and all the books and all the stuff. And everyone's like, what year is it? I don't know. Let's just call it year 1000 AD. AD for what? Anno Domini, the year of our Lord. Because we're not sure what year it is. I mean, I really do think that there was that scene was in The Matrix. Morpheus is telling Neo when they're on the Nebuchadnezzar, remember they're on the ship, and he's asking him what year it is. He's like, honestly, we don't know.
Yeah.
Because they're living after the apocalypse, after some massive catastrophe. I don't know. What do you think, Aaron? But I know you're kind of the go-to guy when it comes to frequencies and sounds and healing. Do you think there's some validity to some of that stuff?
Yeah, without a doubt. So those structures you were just showing, those exact structures had tons of like resonant rooms that resonated at certain frequencies. And it's like not even a question about whether or not frequencies, they do a lot of things. They can heal, they can also destroy. Those ruins that you showed, I mean, they just literally told us that they got bombed. And so I wouldn't doubt that, those were a part of the millennial reign, just like a lot of the other structures that we see, because they have a lot of similarities. Like a lot of the structures that were created they have perfect symmetry. And the only thing that would really explain some of those things being created having perfect symmetry is if they were created with frequencies. Like if they were actually like chiseled using frequency. And yeah, so it's like, this is like a tough thing to discuss even after all of the years of my understanding it and processing it, because it's kind of a slippery slope. It's really difficult to discuss anything frequency related without anybody immediately discounting you as New Age or discounting you as, playing around with spirits or delving into things that you have no business delving into. But, the way that I see it is that like all of that stuff got hijacked by the New Age because it's all God's creation. Like all of it is his creation. And so you can do the studies yourself. I mean, you can literally, anybody, but nobody does it. Anybody can buy a frequency machine. Anybody can build a Chladni plate or a Chladni plate. Anybody can do the different tests themselves, and they can see what the different frequencies and the different pure tones do. And when you see the difference, and I've got a video still on my YouTube page where you can visibly see the difference between 440 and 432, and the 440 is just complete chaos, and 432 is like perfectly symmetrical. Like, that's the reason I started doing my music in 432. It's not because I'm trying to heal people with my music necessarily. I want them to hear the message that Jesus has given me. I want them to feel the Holy Spirit's presence through the words and the music that was created. But if I can do it in a calming, pleasant frequency that's not disruptive, that doesn't cause people to act erratic or feel the anxiousness and the anxiety that comes with 440 hertz music, that's what I'm going to do. I want to deliver it in the purest possible way to do it. But yeah, there's no question. I mean, have you guys seen that video? There's a video of a baby crying, and this dad grabs one of those singing bowls.
Yeah.
And he hits it really quick, and it gongs. And I believe that that was a 432 hertz bowl. I don't know what note it was. I think it was like a C. I think it was a C bowl based on the size. And the sound and the resonance of the frequency itself forced the kid to calm down. He immediately stopped crying.
Yeah, that was amazing.
He was immediately soothed. But it's like, people don't understand, like, frequency is a thing. Like, it's a very real thing. We measure everything in frequency, and it's not just what we hear, it's what we see. I was troubleshooting something for some friends this week, and we were having issues with these LED lights flickering on camera. And the reason the flicker was showing up was because in America, the electric current that flows through our walls, it flows at 60 hertz. So if you're not filming at 60 frames per second, you're going to see the flicker in the screen. But if you film at 60 frames per second, then the energetic pulse, the hertz, that the energy is flowing through the wall at 60 hertz, they'll match and you won't see the flicker.
Wow.
And so it's like, this is real stuff. This isn't witchcraft. It's just that people don't understand it. And the ones that do understand it are using it for bad purposes. They're using it for ominous purposes and intentions. And so it's a slippery slope, because people will ask me, what healing frequency should I use for this or for that? And I'm just like, okay, first of all, like, Jesus is our healer. Let's be very clear. Like, go to Jesus for your healing. Like, call upon his name, seek him for your healing. But if you're asking me, which frequencies are pleasing to listen to or calming or whatever, or going to make you feel better, because to me, like, I'll straight up throw on some of those frequencies sometime, and then I'll pray. And then I go into my secret place with him, and I pray, and have the most beautiful time with him while I'm calmed, because listening to those frequencies, it just helps me silence everything. It just shuts the ADHD up, and it allows me to tune it all out. But there's very tangible proof that there were these healing centers, much like the one that we just saw that was destroyed, and a lot of these old cathedrals. There's very tangible proof that people used to go to these places to physically get healed, because the resonance that the frequency vibrated at in the church was the same resonance of, like, some of the tumors and the cancerous things that were inside of their bodies, and it would quite literally shake the tumors inside of them until they dissipated to nothing. And
That's
so, but like we've talked about this before, like they have that technology now. It's the same thing that they use, those little wands that they use to go in and bust up kidney stones. Like, it's the same technology, just on a much larger scale.
I'm fully on board. I mean, it makes sense to me now, the more I learn about frequencies and vibrations, that it is likely that these buildings had practical uses, could be just like we talk about the cathedrals of the old world. They were for similar purposes. Now, what's interesting is that one thing he said in the video was that the United States military dropped 2 million tons of bombs. Think about it. 2 million tons?
It's insane.
Decimate evidence. There's no other reason for that.
Well,
1,000,000%.
We've talked about this on particularly World War I and World War II. So they talk about, like, famously that the British firebombed Dresden like one of the most beautiful cities in the whole world in Germany, long after the Germans were beaten, and just destroyed, just like basically it was like Germany's version of Paris, and they just destroyed the place. Worse than that, the loss of human life there. But yeah, many of us have believed now that if we're in Satan's little season, would they try to destroy evidence?
Yeah.
Now, what's really interesting about Cambodia, so everybody knows that the war in Vietnam was basically just some giant boondoggle. Maybe there was a reason why they did some of the stuff over there that we don't know about. And it's really interesting to think about how he was saying, I can't remember how many temples he said were in Cambodia. But most people don't know where Cambodia is, and they would never be able to find it on a map. But them dropping 2 million tons of bombs, that's one thing. The one thing he did not mention, that Congress never authorized the military to do that. That many people, see what it says here, I looked it up, it said, many historians and legal scholars, even members of the U.S. Congress, have argued that the U.S. bombing of Cambodia was illegal, particularly during the initial secret phase from 1969 to 1970. So they bombed this place in secret. They bombed a place, dropped 2 million tons of bombs on it, and it was a secret. What?
So that means the people above the government and above the military wanted that place destroyed.
Just trying to get people out of an area. You would bomb the epicenters, you would bomb the utility centers, and that's it. You wouldn't have to decimate an entire plane of existence. You would bomb, it would be so simple. You wouldn't bomb everything. You bomb everything if you're trying to hide something or hide evidence or just decimate an area.
Well, I mean, I think that we see it as normal because we know the stories of World War II, that it seems normal for wars to include just destroying cities. That's not how it used to be. How you win a war is not destroying their cities, is destroying their armies.
And their leader.
And then they surrender, and then you get to I mean, depending on what time of year it is, you could maybe negotiate good terms with these people. You could get them to pay you. You could maybe even take over the place because it's not so bad.
Be in their best interest.
Right. But now in the modern era, it's totally normal, like Gaza, just to wipe the slate clean, just destroy a place, and it's just total, just like absolute ruins. But that's the thing. It's like, I mean, it's absolutely crazy to think that place, Cambodia, had all those temples. What did it look like before they dropped 2 million tons of bombs on there? Because isn't it funny when you see like the stuff that's especially kind of in East Asia, and you see those temples, and they kind of look weird. I mean, they don't look like temples around where we're at. It's almost like, I wonder if they were scorched with fire and bombs, and that's why they look all black. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at those temples, what did they look like before Vietnam? Gosh,
I'm sure it was beautiful.
I bet it was beautiful, and you could imagine what what Westerners would say about that place. I wonder if they would start to question, like, hey, so the people who built that, where are they at? How did they ever get overrun in this place? How did it ever just turn into just guerrillas fighting in the jungle, just like these factions of people?
Why do they have a healing center where they're not getting cancer over there? Like, that's what?
What most people probably know about, maybe they don't, is in the Amazon. You have all these temples in the Amazon. Well, based on if you've ever seen shows about them, like going exploring the Amazon, how dense and how thick that jungle is, and how you could never move building materials through that jungle. So you'd have to just assume that they built the temples before the jungle was overgrown. I bet you that place looked like that too.
And if the timeline's right of what they're saying, if they're being honest, 800 years ago would have been right in the middle of the Dark Ages or the Millennial Reign.
Right. Again, so that's what I'm saying. Like, you're putting these things that are incredible. Horse and cart. I don't even know if they have horses over there. They probably do, I guess. Some kind of four-legged animal pulling a cart, chisels, and just good old elbow grease. And they're just knocking out these temples that can just, those ponds. Yeah, those 4 ponds are obviously perfect. Man-made lakes with a temple in the middle of it. Come on.
Yeah, those weren't primitively built. Those were very intelligently built.
Very advanced people.
And with a purpose. Have you heard the theory that Russia is the epicenter of the millennial reign?
Oh, of course they talk about Tartaria, right?
So many buildings over there still standing. And
you think that's kind of why that the West is so cross with them all the time, is saying, we got to get in there and blow up those buildings. There's still too much evidence up there.
It would make sense. And I mean, even their Orthodox roots, it would make sense. Like, they obviously know something we don't.
Good chance. You know what? We're going to play one more video, and I'm going to play this video that I teased earlier about the end of days. And I'm not going to cut this whole segment out for YouTube. So YouTube, you guys are going to get to see the whole video. But if you don't see this video, blame YouTube, because they didn't let me play you this video. But check this out. This is pretty crazy.
Dude, those occultists are so above the time, it seems. Like, man, shoot. They were little seasonists before we were. Shoot.
That one, yeah, when Aaron sent that video to me and I saw that, I was like, are you kidding me? I saw that movie back. I probably saw it in the movie theater back in the day because,
what movie is that?
It's called The End of Days, and it was released in 1999. And I think that was kind of like when Arnold had a string of not very good movies. He could do no wrong in the 80s, even though some of those movies were not good either. But obviously everything he did was a hit back in the 80s. And then so he did like that Last Action Hero, which has probably got a lot of stuff in it too. It's very weird. But this movie was totally satanic. It was totally like kind of off the normal, kind of like how you would Arnold, like the fun kind of one-liners and violence and just it all being kind of a fun joke. This was just so dark. But seeing that part where, yeah, literally the 1,000 years has ended and Satan is loose from his prison. I mean, the only thing could have been better if he would have said, and then he goes out to deceive the nations. He didn't read that verse. But yeah, that is absolutely insane that's in that movie. And it's interesting, the kind of the timing of when that movie came out. Again, it came out in 1999. So this is like, you're going to have this new year and then you're going to have this new millennia right afterwards. So this is the end of the 1,000 years. And it's interesting. Arnold makes a joke in the movie, or he's not joking, but he's being sarcastic because they're telling him about this prophecy that has to take place. This is not a great short season movie, even though obviously that's kind of the point of what's happening, is that it's about like kind of this Catholic kind of end of days kind of, their eschatology is very confusing. It's not very biblical, but they're believing like the devil is let out of his prison and then he has to make a baby with some special woman who was born under this certain star. Like I did take another screenshot of this. So this picture right here, this has something to do with this child that's born under this certain sign, which is really interesting. I kind of like this image where it's showing there's like this comet, I guess, that passes over the moon and it makes an eye. That's sort of weird.
Sure does.
I never even thought about looking for that kind of sign. But anyways,
what's that from?
This is from the movie. So when the girl who the devil is going to try to impregnate, she's born in 1979 under this certain sign. And then so 20 years later, the devil's let out. He literally comes up from the earth. There's all these explosions coming out of the sewers in New York. You see this flash of this, the kind of like, almost like in the movie The Predator. You know, the Predator's like invisible, but you can kind of see him. It's like this angel comes up and then eventually possesses a man. And the rest of the movie, he's that guy Gabriel Byrne. And anyways, it's kind of like that kind of Catholic story where the devil is going to impregnate some woman, then the kid's going to be like the Antichrist or something like that. And then, so in the movie, that's kind of what it's all about. It's like Arnold's trying to protect this woman. But when the end of days happens, it's like the devil wins or something like that. And so the Catholic Church has this certain faction where they're trying to, I don't know exactly what they're trying to do, but then you have this other faction called the Knights of the Vatican. and they have like this Knights Templar type motif and like this tattoo with, I think, with like a heart with a like a knife in it, and they're trying to kill the woman to prevent the end of days. But it's really, really dark. It's really satanic.
I'm glad I didn't watch it.
Other than those two scenes, and there was probably a couple other things I could have added, but I do not recommend people watching that. But, it is funny, though, that there's one guy I met in the short season one short season believer that I've done a podcast with. He had what I thought was a pretty wacky theory that he believed that the devil was let out on 9/11. And I was like,
Oh,
truth be told is that as people kind of wax cold, I don't know that the devil necessarily would have to be out if if demons are still present during this time, right? And maybe the devil's let out later. It could.
I don't know.
Could you think
1776 makes the most sense to me.
Well, let's just say that I agree with that. That's my current thing. But I'm playing devil's advocate, if you will.
Sure.
Let's just go with it for a second. What if the last 100 years or so of the millennial reign, it was tailing off pretty good, right? And then because the people who do know that the devil's time is coming, they are emboldened to kind of start working behind the scenes, and it's all lies and stuff that they're doing in the dark, because again, they can't do things openly. And I have wondered about this, and of course, when I did one of my early TikTok videos about how I believe that Revelation 9/11, you have the king of the bottomless pit coming out, and why would they have these holes in the ground to symbolize what happened on 9/11? And then I thought, what if the king of the bottomless pit used to be Apollyon, but he's gone now because he was thrown into the lake of fire way back when. But the new king of the bottomless pit would have been the devil, and it was symbolic of him being released. And I was like, that is sort of weird. Okay, what I was going to say is that what Arnold was kind of being sarcastic about, because the priest was telling him that, the devil needs to basically consummate this thing before this certain time of night, right before midnight on the new year. And so Arnold was saying, what is it going to be, Eastern Standard Time? Because he was saying, like, this is stupid. This sounds made up. And the priest told him, he's like, no, the reason the calendar is the way it is because it was based on when there was this certain celestial alignment that was coming at this certain time. And I was like, oh, that's interesting to think about, like, the way our calendar is now. I'm sure that's probably true. That's probably true. Like, it's not we would say that the calendar is inaccurate and it's arbitrary, but probably not to somebody who established it, because again, we believe the sky is a clock. So at some point you do have to correct your chronology to that. And what if it was the people who were counting on a specific day of maybe the devil being let out, that they would have talked about it? I can't help but think about people like Blavatsky and Crowley talking about this new age to come, where it's going to be the age of Horus. And Crowley's openly saying that the age of, like, Pisces and Jesus is done, and then there's this new age. And I'm like, why did they think it was going to be now? Like, why did they think the new age was coming soon if they were already living in the little season? You know what I'm saying?
They had to have been living outside of it.
No, but they were, Blavatsky, she was from the 1800s-ish, late 1800s. Then Crowley's like 20th century. But they're talking about a future new age coming. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying I'm totally swayed by the idea that the devil was let out recently, but it is sort of weird to think about, like, what it does seem like you said, or you both said earlier, something's coming to a head, though. I don't know necessarily that the next big shoe to drop is all the way the very end, Gog Magog. Like
And
I
there's
don't,
fire coming
I
down
don't know,
from
I don't
heaven.
know that we're there yet. But I guess from my perspective, I'm not going to say the devil is a complete idiot. So what if there's something that in between where that he's kind of got this carrot on the stick for the elites, not to go right to battle Jesus yet, but there's something that they are being guaranteed that they're really trying to move the earth toward, the world toward. It's going to be soon. It has to be like, it seems like some of this stuff has to be, their plans have to be having some kind of an end goal here soon, right?
2030. 2029 technically is when the comet's going to hit. But just saying.
Brian,
That's what
Brian,
I'm on board with it.
stop listening to this. Stop listening to NASA.
Oh no,
I mean-
not NASA. That's the prophetic dude. That's Thomas Horn. He had the dream and said it's gonna hit in 2029, and then he died. And then guess what? Brandon Biggs, that other dude that had a lot of prophetic stuff happen that he got right. He also just recently said that the comet's gonna hit.
Brian,
Just saying.
Aaron, what do you
Fire
think?
comes down from heaven, bro. Fire's coming down from heaven.
I think that, the elites are the most deceived because the devil needs them on board. And so
They don't know what's going on.
they don't truly know what's going on. They know more than we do about what's taking place in the world, but they don't even have a roadmap of what's actually taking place behind the scenes. And so when you talk about Crowley and some of these other people about like what their teachings were, I just always come back to the fact that like, and this is another reason why I stopped making conspiracy related content, is because at the end of the day, everything we have access to is what they allow us to have access to. And so like the only thing that I know 100%, and I mean 100% unequivocally, is that Jesus is real and he transformed my life. That's the only thing that I know 100%. And so that's the only thing that I can stand on 100%. Everything outside of that, no matter how much evidence we have, is just literal speculation. And so I don't know, I find comfort in that, honestly. That used to drive me crazy. But I actually find a tremendous amount of comfort in that because at the end of the day, like, we just don't know. Like, we just don't know. It's fun to talk about.
Yeah, that's good. That's actually probably a perfect way to end it because it is like that. It doesn't probably help a lot of people. Like, let's just say we knew it was going to happen. It probably wouldn't help you sleep at night tonight. It would probably be worse. Like if we did, I was like, oh no, this is what they've got planned. But I want to go back to that meme my brother shared when it says, fear is what if, faith is even if. And I think that's why we can always kind of talk about these things, especially the little season topic and all the weird stuff that we talk about, and not be anxious about it and worry. We're not spreading fear here. We're spreading. I pray that we're spreading truth, and I think that we all, we acknowledge that we don't know, and that's okay.
Well, I think the way I see it is people are having these conversations already. So like your platform gives people a safe place to have these conversations in the confines of someone that loves Jesus with their whole heart. And so if we're going to have these conversations, let's have them with brothers and sisters that have kept Jesus on the throne, because people are still going to have them. We're curious, and it's fascinating. And like, even though we all agree, like, we don't know any of this stuff 100%, we're still going to have these conversations. Like, they're still going to happen. So we may as well happen with brothers and sisters that love Jesus and that have kept him on the throne. So
Amen, brother. Well, anyways, brother, it was awesome having you, man. Yeah, I know that you're not doing as much stuff online as you used to, but is there anything you want to promote? Your music got coming up? Anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, so I actually, like, I'm really close to having my whole EP done, but I wanted to let mostly your followers know that song "Still Time." So when I made that song "Still Time," that's the song that's on your intro and outro for these videos. It's very different from the stuff that I normally make. It's very different from the music that I normally make. In that, like, there's minimal singing, but that was like very Holy Spirit led, that song. And I was never planning on releasing it, but I'm actually going to release it next week. So for everybody that like comes on to my channel from your channel looking for that video and looking for that song, just know that within the next 7 to 10 days it will be released, so you guys can all stream it on your favorite services.
That's awesome. You know how many times I hear people telling me they love that song?
That's awesome. What a blessing. That's great. Thank you for that.
Well, anyways, Brian, you got anything you want to leave us with?
Nope, but it was fun. Nice meeting you, bro, Ian.
Yeah, you too, man.
Yeah, man. Let's talk some more cool stuff. I like your theories and perspective on things. Love it.
Appreciate that. Thank you. You as well.
Well, anyways, guys, I really appreciate you guys listening. And once again, if you guys want to support this podcast, please check out Modern Roots Life. Grab a t-shirt. And if you want to support me and watch this show early and uncensored, check out my Patreon, link in the description. Anyways, guys, appreciate all you guys and your support. Love you guys. God bless you.
Later.
Everyone left me. Everyone deserted me. Jesus was always there. When everyone hated me and walked away, Jesus never walked away.